On March 13th, 2013, the white smoke appeared before thousands of cheering people at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. Around 7:30 p.m., George Bergoglio stepped onto the balcony announcing himself as the new leader of the world's 1.2 billion Roman Catholics. At first, many of the onlookers were surprised at the election of the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, but after a couple of moments, the crowd began chanting his never-before-chosen name, Francis.
Fratelli e sorelle, buonasera.
Being the first non-European chosen, the first from Latin America, and the first Jesuit pope in the modern age, Pope Francis has made history before even beginning his term in the papacy. Coming from a different church background, it will be interesting to see if Pope Francis will bring a new Jesuit twist to the traditional Catholic order. With less than 2 months as the new religious leader, Pope Francis has already put his own little spin on a few of the most sacred Catholic traditions. Before offering his first blessing as the new Bishop of Rome, Pope Francis first asked the faithful to pray for him as he bowed his head in silence. This was Francis's plea to achieve greater social equality and brotherhood in the world, which greatly reflects the Pope's strong-rooted Jesuit tradition. In the attempt to read the signs of how a little-known Argentine Jesuit might change the papacy, it is important to pay attention to the unique spiritual practices that are at the core of every Jesuit formation. Fordham University, one of the proud 28 Jesuit universities in the United States, places enormous value on religion and encourages students to explore spirituality. Being the Jesuit University of New York, Fordham strives to teach the Jesuit ideals and traditions, imprinting its students with lifelong lessons reflecting core Jesuit educational values. The Jesuit imprint is clear on Pope Francis, both in terms of style and substance. The normality, which has already become a hallmark of Francis's papacy, comes out of the Jesuit mode of life. To find out what it really means to be a Jesuit and what this change in tradition will bring to the Church, we'll hear from one of Fordham University's Jesuit priests.
The heart of being a Jesuit is our spirituality, which is based on the spiritual exercise of St. Ignatius. And it's basically intense prayer that leads one to communion with God in Christ and leads one to, from their prayer, to service of people.
Being a Jesuit priest, Father Phil explains his initial reactions to the election.
I was really shocked because it's very clear in our constitutions that Jesuits are not to aspire to any kind of office in the Church. Bishop, even title Monsignor is not used by a Jesuit. So there are some Jesuit bishops and cardinals, but it's an exception, never a pope. So it's really shocked, but I'm kind of happy.
In choosing the first Latin American pope, is there an underlying message the bishops are trying to convey to the world?
First, they're trying to say that the demographics have shifted. The Church is not just centered in Europe anymore as it was for centuries. Ireland, Italy, Polish, Germany. It's now expanded. The Church is all over the world. And so it's a powerful statement saying we've moved beyond Europe. And the second is much of Latin America is in poverty, so I think it's a great gesture to people who are struggling economically. It's not just the rich Europeans or Americans dominating. It's pretty powerful.
Being a Jesuit, the normality, which is signaled by his modest actions, is Pope Francis leading by example with the intentions to put the poor front and center. Pope Francis turned down his papal limo and rides the bus with everyone else. He said no thanks to living in the palatial papal apartment at the Vatican and chose a simpler housing complex to reside. And on Holy Thursday, Pope Francis went to jail to wash and kiss the feet of prisoners.
His statement that he wants a church of the poor and for the poor, I think we're going to feel reverberations from that.
Fordham University students commented on what it means to attend a Jesuit school and their opinions on the new pope.
Well, going to a Jesuit university is a great pleasure for me.
For me, it broadened my horizons, if you could say that, to service. Because, I'll go down to Pots once in a while and help feed, people that are less fortunate than me. And I feel like this Pope, being a Jesuit, will teach the world that.
I certainly believe that he's going to bring in a lot of the Jesuit learnings into the Catholic Church. One of the key points and elements of the Jesuit learning and traditions is like being humble and kind to the unfortunate. And I think that a lot of his next actions are going to involve those two major attributes.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part about the new pope is that he's a Jesuit, because Jesuits' values are a little bit different than other orders, and like the importance of education and how like liberal they are, I think is really good, especially because the last pope was so conservative, and that he was like found like washing the feet of like delinquents like on Holy Friday right after he was like elected pope, and that he has like a lot of different views on things, and he's a lot more humble than popes we've seen in the past.
At Fordham University, they aspire to be leaders in a global society and recognize the uniqueness of each person, which is exactly what Pope Francis is trying to teach the world.